Thank you very much. We turn now to our next item of business, which is topical questions. We start with question number 1 from Ivan McKee.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to the recommendations on migration that were made by the Sustainable Growth Commission in the report Scotland, the New Case for Optimism.
Cabinet Secretary Derek Mackay.
Presiding Officer, I should start by noting that I was a member of the Sustainable Growth Commission. The Scottish Government welcomes the report's recommendations on migration, chiming as they do with our own report from February of this year, Scotland's Population Needs and Migration Policy. That emphasised the enormous benefits to Scotland's economy, demography and society that migration offers us, and how a migration system tailored to Scotland's needs could help realise those benefits. That shared ambition is captured in the Commission's recommendation that our goal must be for Scotland to become the most talent-friendly country in the world. So while the Commission's report is, first and foremost, a report to my party, I believe its tone and recommendations on immigration reflect a consensus that includes the majority of our country and, I hope, this chamber. There are, of course, other matters in the report which the SNP and the public will be debating over the summer. And the Scottish Government will also consider the report's recommendations on growth carefully to see what more can be done within our existing powers, whilst making the case for these powers to be extended. And I hope that all parties in this chamber will join us in making that case.
Ivan McKee.
As the Cabinet Secretary is aware of the report's 50 recommendations, 6 deal directly with addressing Scotland's long-term problem of population growth compared to other small, independent, successful countries. And those who have read the report will know that those are recommendations 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Which recommendations can be adopted now and which require pressure on the UK Government to allow Scotland to bring in the skills we need to grow our economy?
Cabinet Secretary.
I think there are a number of initiatives that we've been able to undertake so far. There are some live campaigns, such as the promotional campaign around the globe in promoting Scotland as a good place to live, work and invest in terms of education. Clearly, we've made commitments around EU nationals as well, but there are many other areas in which we would need the support and agreement of the UK Government, particularly around migration policy, the issuing of visas, cognizant, of course, of the issue of post-study work visas. Tax incentives, whilst we may set the rates and bans for income tax policies defined by the UK Government to do more around incentives, would also require the cooperation of the UK Government. And culture and tone is a mixture between us both. I would like to think that the Scottish Government's been very positive about the contribution that immigration has made to our country. The UK Government take a different view, but indeed there are a number of proposals within the Commission's report absolutely worthy of further consideration.
Ivan McKee.
The damage to be inflicted on the UK and Scottish economies by the imminent chaotic Brexit cliff edge is well understood. Does the Cabinet Secretary agree with me that in the light of this impending economic disaster, there is even more urgency to bring full powers over immigration to Scotland?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I'd absolutely agree with that. Even reports such as the Scottish Fiscal Commission's identified the proportion of the number of the working age population as an issue for Scotland around productivity and indeed economic growth in its totality. So there are a number of reasons why it really matters to Scotland to get the balance right. And in terms of scenarios that have been set out, in a scenario where net migration in the UK was reduced to the tens of thousands, an aspiration of the Conservative Government, that would be in line with the UK Government's target if they achieved that, but Scotland would lose over £10 billion a year in GDP by 2040 if that was the case. Now, that's a longer-term approach. Clearly, the short-term approach around Brexit, it is significant how the UK Government conducts this exercise. But clearly the needs of the population of Scotland are different from the rest of the United Kingdom, and that's why there's divergence in opinion between the Government's positions. So we do need the levers to be able to make the right decisions in that regard, as well as the actions that can encourage more people to come here so that we can enhance our economic, social and sense of cohesion as well, the position in Scotland that finds itself in right now, and we should have options into the future.
Jackson Carlaw to be followed by Claire Baker.
I believe most of us can agree that last week's attempt to kick-start a conversation on independence has already run into deep sand. But may I say, though, that the report itself is, how can I put this, not without interest. It is a savage indictment of this government's high tax policy and involves Scots already suffering to pay even more to attempt to attract those currently appalled and resolutely staying away. Would it not be better just to set a comprehensive tax regime now to keep skilled Scots here and encourage key workers from across the UK, Europe and the world to come to contribute both to our culture and to our economy?
Cabinet Secretary.
See, not only has Jackson Carlaw clearly not read the 354-page Sustainable Growth Commission, which even though it was a bank holiday, I know is a big ask to ask of the opposition, but I'm sure that any reasonable member, once they've read the report, will see that it's a positive case to be optimistic about Scotland and its future if we have the economic levers to deliver the kind of change that we seek. On immigration, of all issues, I thought there was a degree of consensus in the Chamber from all parties on the issue of immigration. It's historically been the case because we recognise collectively that we need to grow our population and ensure that there's an appropriate balance of working age population. That can only be done with positive immigration, and whilst we don't have that particular lever, that is a challenge to Scotland at the same time as the right-wing Brexit madness of the hardliners in the Conservative Party sets the immigration policies of this country. Specifically in relation to tax, there is further... I hear the Labour Party chuntering from my right. Maybe they should read the report as well, Presiding Officer, but specifically in relation to tax. We could do more around incentives if we were able to set the definitions and have a more harmonious position in terms of how tax incentives could encourage more people to come here. And that includes higher value individuals as well, to use that particular term. In relation to the current proposition, even the SFC, the Scottish Fiscal Commission, recognised in setting out their analysis of my proposed tax plans that it would have no significant negative effect on the Scottish economy. But if I had followed the Conservative plans on the budget, it would have meant ripping £500 million out of the public services of Scotland, and that was something that this government was not willing to do.
Claire Baker, to be followed by Patrick Harvey. Claire Baker.
Thank you. While there is a challenge to grow Scotland's population in the coming years, in order to get Scotland's deficit below 3%, the economics of the Growth Commission would see Scotland enter at least a decade of austerity max. Can I ask the Cabinet Secretary how an independent Scotland will be considered more attractive to migrants in the face of further harsher cuts to our public services?
Cabinet Secretary.
I would simply say to Claire Baker that austerity is the price of the Union, not Scottish independence. And I hear members of the Labour Party now shouting at the report. I'm left suspicious, Presiding Officer, whether they have also read the Sustainable Growth Commission report either. Because you see, what the Growth Commission sets out is pathways for sustainable economic growth, greater participation, better productivity and more alignment in terms of the policies that we could have as an independent country to grow our population and thereby our economy. But crucially, is Claire Baker not aware that our proposals within the Growth Commission show that there will be above-inflation increases in public spending? Was the Labour Party aware of that? So I say again, austerity is the price of being part of the Union. With the levers of independence, we could do so much better.
Patrick Harvey.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Everybody with a shred of human decency wants to see an end to the hostile environment on immigration that's been deliberately cultivated by the UK government. But isn't there a contradiction in the report between the general emphasis on wanting Scotland to be an open and welcoming country and the proposal merely to reduce rather than abolish the investment threshold for the issuing of visas to £75,000? Surely we have a choice of being that open, welcoming country or selling visas to the wealthy.
Cabinet Secretary.
I think Patrick Harvey makes a very fair point around this, that the needs of our society and our economy is not just to say that we need entrepreneurs and experts, and absolutely we do. We want to be as welcoming as possible as a country. That includes students, it includes everyone I've mentioned, it includes doctors being denied access, of course, by the UK government. I think it includes a whole host of people a whole host of people that the society and the country will welcome. And I think we should reflect on the positive contribution that immigration has made to our country. The current figure of the 429,000 residents of Scotland born outside of the UK are already making a fantastic contribution to our economy, some £1.3 billion net contribution to this economy. And we want to see more of that, more positive migration that grows our economy and does so in a fairer way. But yes, our needs are different from agriculture to education, a whole host of areas that would benefit from us being able to make immigration decisions that were in Scotland's interest, but also, and crucially, show humanity to ensure that we are playing our part on the international stage as well as our own social and economic needs.
Thank you. Question number 2, Edward Mountain.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what steps it is taking to ensure that there is sufficient and substantive interventional radiologists in every major hospital in Scotland.
Cabinet Secretary Shona Robertson.
Under this government, clinical radiology consultants working in NHS Scotland have increased by over 43%. We're expanding the Scottish Radiology Training Programme by 50 places over 5 years from this year, building on an ongoing programme of expansion of 36 places from a starting baseline of 104 in 2014. And we've also launched a global radiology recruitment campaign. These actions, alongside the £4 million radiology transformation programme already underway, underlines the commitment to ensure that NHS Scotland retains world-class radiology services.
Edward Mountain.
And I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. I would also like to thank the Cabinet Secretary for the completely surprising letter received at 12 o'clock this morning laying that out. I don't normally get letters from the Cabinet Secretary. Perhaps I should raise more topical questions. So, bearing in mind what she said, let's look at the facts. We're sitting on more unread films, a bill of nearly £4 million per year for outsourcing radiology, 14% of radiology posts sitting unfilled, and a failed overseas recruitment campaign, and those needing intervention radiology for cancer and palliative care not getting treatment on time. This government has been running the NHS for 11 years. So will she accept her government's failures for these performance figures?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, anytime Edward Mountain wants to write to me, he will get a reply, and I hope he found the contents of the letter helpful in addressing the very issue that he's raising today at Topical Questions. He talked, first of all, he said about X-rays being sent abroad. This issue was raised at FMQs last week, and of course what the First Minister rightly said was that the key priority is high-quality, safe services to patients, and ensure scans are seen quickly by qualified professionals. Boards can utilise the services of radiologists out with Scotland. That, of course, is something routinely done elsewhere, whether it's in England or Wales or elsewhere. And to help grow local capacity, of course, we are investing £4 million in the transformation programme to improve capacity across Scotland. He also mentioned the recruitment campaign. Well, Edward Mountain is wrong to say that it's a failed campaign, because the campaign is ongoing. Some offers have already been made to candidates, but others are having some ongoing additional support to achieve their FRCR or their CESR in order to practice as a consultant in Scotland, bearing in mind that those qualifications need to be aligned from the country that they originated in. So that shortlisting stage is ongoing, and we're very confident that many of those candidates on that shortlisting stage will go on to be offered substantive appointments. So hopefully that will reassure him that the recruitment campaign is ongoing. I'm happy to keep him updated as we take that forward.
Edward Mountain.
Officer, and I'll just concentrate, if I may, briefly on the recruitment campaign. I go to Grant Baxter, Dr. Grant Baxter, the chair of the Standing Committee of Scottish Radiologists, who says it's failed. Now, let's be clear, let's get the figures right. 43 people applied for the job and they were whittled down to 3. None of those are being employed in the Highlands. So let's look at the Highlands. From August, we're going to have a situation where there are no interventional radiologists in the Highland. This effectively means that elective and general surgery and emergency surgery will be severely affected. Will the Cabinet Secretary now guarantee an interventional radiologist will be in place at Raigmore before the current one leaves? If not, will surgery have to be moved out with the Highlands? And how will she explain this to Highlanders, especially those with life-threatening needs for intervention radiology?
Cabinet Secretary.
Mentioned the 3 candidates that have been made offers, but yes, they were unconditional offers of appointment. But as I said in my original answer, we'd listened that there is a separate process to make sure that the qualifications that longer list of people who have expressed an interest in coming to Scotland under the recruitment campaign, those qualifications need to be aligned to the qualifications here. They are getting support in doing that, and we are confident that a number of those will be appointed, including in the north of Scotland. In terms of the support in the interventional radiology, I don't know if Edward Mountain is aware that there are 8 to 10 additional training places for interventional radiology over the last 6 years. We're working very closely with NES to make sure, of course, that the additional training places deliver to the whole of Scotland, including the north of Scotland. He will be aware of the increase that the north of Scotland has seen in consultants with a specialty of clinical radiology working in NHS Scotland, including in NHS Highland. But there is more work to be done, and that's why the transformation programme is so important. But instead of criticising a global recruitment campaign to try to attract radiologists here in Scotland that is underway and is proving to be bringing people here, perhaps he would get behind it rather than criticising it.
Edward Mountain.
And I'm not criticising the global campaign. I just want the facts and figures. We're talking about the senior radiologist in Scotland say it's failing. But you haven't answered the substantive question, Cabinet Secretary. From August, there will be no interventional radiologist in the Highlands. You can recruit or you can train as much as you like. You're not going to get them in place in 2 months' time. People in the Highlands are worried that they won't get their surgery, and in emergency situations, they won't get the radiologists they need. What assurances can you give them?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, patients, of course, will get the services and the treatment and the interventions that they require. And a lot of work is going on to recruit to those substantive posts, but also to support and make sure that we get the north of Scotland radiology services into a sustainable position. So the patients within NHS Highland, as anywhere else in Scotland, will continue to get those services. But, you know, Edward Mountain should support practical initiatives like the Global Recruitment Campaign that is working hard to bring radiologists to Scotland. He should get behind that rather than criticising it from the sidelines.
Anas Sarwar.
Presiding Officer, what a complacent and pathetic set of answers from the Cabinet Secretary. On the same day, the official statistics show that because of her government's failures, almost 18,000 people have not got their diagnostics in time in the first 3 months of this year. 18,000 people. And in the same set of statistics today, almost 17,000 patients have been failed with their treatment times guarantee. That is 17,000 times in 3 months that the Cabinet Secretary has broken her own law. Now, in her press release in response, she's blaming 1 week of bad weather with the beast from the east. 1 week of bad weather does not explain 3 months of failed statistics, and in this Cabinet Secretary's case, 4 years of failure. When will she finally get her head out the sand, apologise to these patients and deliver real and meaningful change?
Before the Cabinet Secretary replies, the member just be careful about his use of language. It's very important to be respectful. I recognise the passion that the member wishes to get across, but please be respectful of other members. Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Well, let me first of all remind Anas Sarwar of the rest of the press release and what it says. So first of all, of course, it says that the £50 million that we laid out last year and announced last year has been delivering a huge reduction in outpatient waits, making sure that outpatient waits are down over 23,000 fewer patients now waiting for an outpatient appointment. Yesterday, there was a further announcement of an additional £50 million. That £50 million will be focused on diagnostics and the treatment guarantee. Maybe if Anasawa was to listen to the answer, he might actually learn something for once. So if you'd like to listen to the answer, diagnostics and the investment in diagnostics is hugely important. That's why the Golden Jubilee Hospital has just had a huge investment in additional MRI scanners, delivering 10,000 additional scans over the course of this year. So yes, diagnostics is a priority, and of course within that, cancer waits on average are within 2 weeks, because we recognise that within diagnostics, cancer patients should get priority. So more investment in diagnostics, more investment in outpatients and more investment in inpatients. That will begin to make a huge improvement over the next few weeks and months.
Thank you very much to the Minister and to members. That concludes topical questions. We'll move on now to our Stage 1 debate on the Planning Scotland Bill. And I would encourage members who wish to speak in this debate to press their request to speak buttons now.